Once upon a time, in a city far, far away, there lived a rich man named Qasim. Now Qasim had a younger brother named Ali Baba, who was a poor woodcutter. But despite his poverty, Ali Baba was a kind-hearted man who always tried to help others. One day, Ali Baba went into the forest to cut wood as he did every day. But this time, he noticed something strange. There was a big, deep hole in the ground covered with thick bushes. Curiosity got the better of him, so he pushed the bushes aside and gasped in surprise. It was a cave, and not just any cave, because carved on the wall above the entrance were the words "Open, Sesame." Intrigued, Ali Baba said, "Open, Sesame," and the cave rumbled and opened up before him. Inside, he saw mountains of gold and jewels glittering in the dim light. Overcome with wonder, Ali Baba stepped inside and shouted, "Close, Sesame." The entrance rumbled shut, hiding the cave from view once more. He couldn't believe his eyes. Had he really just stumbled upon a magical cave filled with treasure? He decided to keep this discovery a secret and hurried home, his heart pounding with excitement. Upon reaching home, he told his wife, Fatima, about the cave and its magical entrance. She was just as surprised as he was, but advised him to keep it a secret from everyone, especially his brother, Qasim. You see, Qasim was a greedy man who would stop at nothing to get what he wanted. If he heard about the cave, he wouldn't hesitate to claim it all for himself, regardless of how many people he had to hurt. Ali Baba promised to keep quiet and went back to the cave. He took only a small amount of treasure, just enough to take care of his family, and left the rest untouched. As days passed, the sight of the humble cottage became a sore reminder of the untold wealth hidden nearby. Qasim couldn't help but wonder if his brother had stumbled upon some sort of fortune. Despite his wife's warning, he couldn't resist the temptation to find out. So one night, when everyone in the house was fast asleep, he slipped out and made his way to Ali Baba's house. Searching through the rooms, he found the spot where Ali Baba had concealed the treasure. Filled with greed, Qasim raced to the forest, eager to claim the riches for himself. Spotting the cave, he confidently shouted, "Open, Sesame." The cave opened, and Qasim excitedly ran inside. He stuffed his arms with gold coins and even unscrewed precious jewels from the walls. But then he paused, realizing that he had no idea how to close the cave again. Panic started to set in. How do I close this cursed place? He cried. The entrance remained stubbornly shut, and soon the sun began to rise, meaning Ali Baba might return at any moment. As the first rays of sunlight touched the entrance, Qasim screamed, "Close, Sesame," hoping against hope that the cave would understand his command. To his horror, it didn't budge. Trapped inside the cave with no way out, he started to scream for help, but his voice echoed back at him mockingly. He spent the whole day trapped inside, his cries growing weaker and weaker until they faded away completely. When Ali Baba returned home that evening and didn't find Qasim, he felt a pang of worry. Something bad must have happened to him. He decided to go out and look for his brother. After searching for a while, he came across the cave. Hearing no sounds of distress from the inside, he assumed that Qasim must have already left. However, he couldn't shake off the feeling of unease that had settled over him. Unable to sleep that night, he decided to pay a visit to the cave just to make sure everything was all right. As he approached, he heard a faint scratching sound coming from within. Curious, he pressed his ear against the rock to listen closely. Suddenly, he heard a voice calling out to him. It was Qasim, weak and desperate, begging Ali Baba for help. Without wasting a moment, Ali Baba called out, "Open, sesame," and rushed inside. What he saw made his blood run cold. His brother was lying on the ground, weak and barely breathing, with a single ray of sunlight hitting him. Realizing the urgency of the situation, Ali Baba quickly ushered him out of the cave and into the fresh air. As soon as Qasim's head cleared, he confessed everything about his plans to steal the treasure and how he had forgotten the counter-command to close the cave. Shame and fear were etched on his face as he begged for forgiveness from Ali Baba. Seeing his brother in such a state, Ali Baba couldn't bring himself to stay angry. He helped Qasim back to his feet and led him home. Despite everything, Ali Baba still had pity for his brother. Instead of telling the villagers about Qasim's greed and his discovery of the cave, he kept quiet. He knew that if word got out about the treasure, there would be chaos and destruction. Ali Baba and his wife decided to forgive Qasim, hoping that he had learned a valuable lesson. But Qasim's greed wasn't something that could be easily cured. Seeing the meager possessions his brother had, his greed only grew stronger. Every day he dreamed of stealing the treasure and becoming rich beyond his wildest dreams. He started planning ways to trick Ali Baba into letting him take the treasure. But little did he know that Ali Baba was also thinking of ways to protect the cave from his greedy brother. One day, Ali Baba had an idea. He decided to entrust his wife and servant, Morgiana, with the secret of the cave. He knew he couldn't do it alone, and they were the only ones he could trust. So he told them about the cave, and the magic words open, sesame and close, sesame, and asked them to keep it a secret. After that, Ali Baba and Morgiana came up with a plan. Morgiana was a quick learner and understood the seriousness of the situation. She promised Ali Baba that she would protect the cave with her life, if need be. At the same time, Ali Baba told his wife Fatima to keep an eye on Qasim, knowing his evil intentions. Ali Baba left for the cave to check on things. Meanwhile, Qasim, driven by greed, tried to trick Ali Baba into going to the cave. But Ali Baba wasn't fooled. He knew Qasim's intentions, and he was prepared. When Qasim realized that his tricks weren't working, he decided to force his way into the cave by breaking down the wall. But Morgiana was waiting for him with a group of armed servants. They attacked Qasim and his men, and a big fight broke out. In the end, Qasim and his men were defeated and tied up. Morgiana then used the same magic words open, sesame, and close, sesame, to seal the cave once more. From that day on, Ali Baba and his family continued to live in their small cottage. But they were truly happy and content with what they had. Qasim, on the other hand, was forced to leave town and wander the world as a beggar, forever tormented by his own greed.